Tuesday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, Batters Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Hope your Tuesday's off to a great start. Let me begin today by just giving a very, very, very quick plug to the NIL podcast Rosters to Riches and our guest Will Wade. As I've been mentioning to you, we did sit down with Will yesterday for a little more than half an hour. He was via the phone, living in Chattanooga right now, but joined me and Jonathan Pixley, and the pod should be live right now. Rosters to Riches, however you get your podcast, or dropbiscuit.com if you're interested. So, appreciate y'all for joining us here. It's a big day for LSU football. Tigers do have a practice this afternoon. So since school has started, practices have moved now to the afternoon. So unfortunate for you, boy. The availability, the media gets to watch the entire practice today. And as I've told you, my guess, again, I want to be very clear, this is a guess. I do not know anything. Sometimes when I know, I have ways of hinting that I know. I'm telling you flatly, I do not know. But my guess is, I think Brian Kelly, after this practice, will name a starting quarterback. Yeah, it's a guess. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Because they're in Tiger Stadium today. It is a full scrimmage session at the end, as I understand it. At least that's what's scheduled. They have begun school now. You're inside of 2 weeks from the opener. Brian Kelly has said he's going to name a starter pretty soon here, and it would just make sense. If the media gets to watch the entire practice today, you're not going to hide anything, right? So I think so Brian Kelly meets the media today after practice. So practice availability starts at 4:25 for the media. We're scheduled to meet with Brian Kelly around 6:30, so roughly hour and a half, 2 hour practice. Then he'll come meet with us, and my guess is at that point, I think there's a really good chance you could have a starting quarterback named tonight. It would just make sense if they did it tonight. So, maybe he'll want to tell the players first. Maybe the players will find out already. I don't know, but I think there's a good chance that we do find out. If not today, certainly any day now. Obviously, we'll ask for an update on John Emery as well to see if there's any progress toward him getting a waiver. If you missed it, I did a lot of digging yesterday into the NCAA rulebook and punishments and waivers and all that sort of stuff, how that all goes. That's on LSU Daily if you're interested in all that. But the long story short is that basically there's a committee that determines the length of a punishment. We don't know what the initial length of John Emery's punishment was, so it could have been 15 games, And if it was, well, then there was 13 games last year, right? And then 2 this year would make 15. Well, if that's the case, then you'd be eligible week 3. Again, that could be what they decided to do. So that's been tough. I actually texted Attorney Don Jackson yesterday, who represented Emery in his appeal last year with the NCAA, which was unsuccessful. And he is no longer working on the Emery case, so he was not aware of any new developments and has not been in contact regarding all of that. So I don't know who's filing the appeal for John Emery, but it'd be great to see if he could get it before Florida State. But at this point, I think you got to prepare like you're going to move forward for those first 2 games without him. So Noah Kane, Armani Goodwin, and hold your breath. Hope you stay healthy. All right, let's say some good mornings here. Let me know what y'all got. Quentin Brakebill, Kelly Gross, good morning. Jason Horn, Matthew Garner, what's going on? The Full Roses lot. Yeah, man, for the limited edition. Michael Angeron, good morning. Great to see you there. Lowell Cormier, good morning. Bubba Tatum, morning sconers from somewhere east of St. Pete. A little deep sea fishing today. Glad it's you, not me. Thank God for PTO, yeah. Ryan Amanda Guidry, Kenneth McCown, Brian Wynn, what's going on? How do you think the Saints co-DC will work out? Will one override the other, or will Dennis Allen call the defense? Great question, Kenneth. When Dennis Allen was hired, he was very non-committal, right? I mean, the way I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect of, when something's your baby, it's hard to let go of your baby. And that really led me to believe that I think he's still going to call the defense. That's what I think. It's not uncommon for offensive-minded head coaches to call the plays. Sean Payton did it. Sean McVay does it. I mean, we've seen that commonly, right? Andy Reid's got a heavy hand in play calling with Kansas City like he did in Philly. So that wouldn't surprise me if Dennis Allen kept calling the defense. Brandon, isn't 15-game suspension a little harsh for Emery? By the way, y'all, Emery, E-M-E-R-Y. E-M-O-R-Y is the school in Atlanta. John Emery is E-M-E-R-Y. Just put it out there. Brant, you're saying is it harsh compared to other things? Here's what we don't know. We don't know the context of John Emery's suspension, and we don't know if it was 15 games. I'm guessing at that. I don't know. What this is. That's what it would amount to be, but we don't know what the extent of his academic ineptitude was. We don't know what he's done in the meantime. Although Brian Kelly says since he's been hired, he's been in good standing. So we don't know all that. And the other thing too, which you're forgetting, is the other things you mentioned are institutional suspensions. Schools, there is no NCAA mandated suspension for drugs unless if it's PEDs. So if like testing for marijuana, there's no NCAA or conference-wide policy. That's school to school. And then the other thing, like you mentioned, firearm. Well, like most schools have policies where if you're, like for LSU, for example, if you're arrested and charged with a felony, you're immediately ineligible until and unless the case is resolved. Excuse me. So, lesser charges will maybe carry a lesser suspension or however it's rectified. So the point is, man, there's just what you're describing, Brant. You're not acknowledging the fact that there's a lot of gray. These issues aren't black and white. Garland Harold, good morning from Tucson. Stephen Farber, how did the interview with Will Wade go? Went great. Again, Stephen, I want to be very clear about this. Because the investigation is still open at LSU. LSU's been handed its NOA, but that case is not closed. Will was not able to talk about anything pertaining to the NCAA investigation. So we talked a lot about NIL. We talked about how it's changing the landscape. We talked a lot about his time at LSU, things he'd like to see changed at LSU. A lot of that. So there's a lot of good stuff in there, but we could not talk specifically about the investigation because it's still open. Kirk Taylor, Jonathan O'Neill. Hey, Dad. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. Holler at my YouTube peeps. Smash that like button if you haven't done so yet. Come on now. Trying to get to y'all here. There we go. Trivia Carter, Joey Vincent, Brad David, Weston Weaver, Larry Garner, Randall Offrecht. What's your opinion of the Saints winning the NFC South? I'll tell you this, Randall. If you look at the odds, the Saints are in most places plus 350-ish. Saints right now plus 310, plus 320, plus 340, depends on what sports book you're looking at. DraftKings, for example, has the Saints plus 310. I think there is incredible value. I think the Panthers and the Falcons are going to stink. So it's a two-team race. It's the Saints and the Bucs. And the question really becomes, how convinced are you that Tampa will continue their run? I look at it and look, man, you lost your two starting guards this year. Ali Marpet retired. Alex Kappa went to the Bengals in free agency. Stinney, who replaced Marpet, just suffered a season-ending injury. Your starting center, Ryan Jensen, suffered a season-ending injury. So your left guard is actually now your third guy, and you're on backups at center and right guard. That ain't good for a 45-year-old quarterback. I've been through over and over again what I feel about the skill guys and how they basically have a bunch of old dudes that are past their prime. I get it, it's still Tom Brady, but at some point Tom Brady it's going to catch up to him. And I think if you're trying to time the jump, this is this year has the most questions. New head coach, Tom Brady just missed a week of camp. Like, if you were trying to time your jump, I think there is a ton of value in the Saints at plus 310. Jeff, what's good, my dude? Jamunison? Oh, good morning. Taylor Castagnier, Matt, what's Jaden Daniels' ceiling for the year? Well, I mean, as a freshman, he threw for 17 touchdowns and 2 picks as a freshman. When he had a first-round receiver in Brandon Ayuk he was thrown to, and he threw for another 3,000 yards. So, I mean, is it realistic to say that he'll throw for 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns with this receiver group? Yeah. I don't know if I'm predicting that, but is it realistic to think? Yeah. Brad, David, Matt, I was always curious when you first started the show, did they let you decide to do a solo show versus having a co-host? Most shows on guarantee of a co-host, that's much harder by yourself. Yeah, so at that time in radio, Brad, the solo show was still a very common thing. I mean, just think about like the national shows at the time. Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd. I mean, it was just common. Like, solo shows were common. Of course, you had Mike and Mike, but after that is when you started to see tandem shows really come about. And so with the advent of that, it's the way that sort of the industry has gone. You just don't see many solo shows anymore. And it is much harder. If you stop talking, there's dead air. If you're having a bad day, there's no one to pick you up. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is harder. I think anybody would acknowledge that. Samuel Smith, who has a better year, Florida or LSU? Good question. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up with the same record. I think the SEC East is a lesser division than the West. Florida, by the way, and Florida gets LSU at home. But I'll tell you this. Florida opens up with Utah at home, but and they're an underdog. LSU opens up neutral, obviously, against Florida State, and is favored. But from the West, of course, Florida gets LSU at home, and they're at Texas A&M. So that's pretty brutal. So I might pick Florida 7-5 and LSU 8-4. Maybe LSU a game better than Florida. But I think they have comparable seasons. Troy Davis, Wendell Norman, Sean Comiskey. Morning, Matt. I know the Saints played no starters in the preseason. Maybe this is just me, but I noticed lack of competitiveness with who did play. Is this a coaching thing or is it just me? I think that's just you. I think Sean. I mean, that's not a shot, Sean. I think the really difficult part when you look at the preseason is you got to realize you're watching guys that generally aren't good enough to make the team. I mean, when you got a 90-man roster and none of your starters are playing, I mean, of the guys that are dressed and playing in that preseason game, you only got a handful that are actually going to make the team. So, I mean, you're just watching a bunch of dudes that aren't going to be playing NFL football in 2 weeks. So, I don't think it's a lack of competitiveness. I just think it's your eyes tell you NFL football should look a certain way, but it's like watching this. The equation would be it's like watching the Scabs, right, from the lockout season. So I don't think it's a lack of competitiveness. I just think it's the players aren't as good as what you normally see in an NFL game. Edward O. got the crabs. Morning, Matthew. Seems like Emery's punishment doesn't fit the crime. What are his chances of a successful appeal? I would imagine the chances of an appeal are not good. I mean, considering this has been lingering now for more than a year, and he's already appealed with a new evidence appeal and was unsuccessful. I mean, I guess we can be hopeful, but I wouldn't be helpful or hopeful. Murder Giraffe, what's up? Trey Guy, morning, Matt. Come on, people, smash the like button. Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate that. If you're on YouTube, do me a favor, subscribe up to the channel, smash the like button if you haven't done so yet. Matt Lusto, morning. Preference on cable streaming service, Hulu, YouTube TV, etc. We are not cord cutters yet, so I cannot give you an honest answer. I have wanted to cut the cord for a long time. Erica insists on keeping cable and overpaying for that nonsense, despite the fact that we still have Amazon and Disney Plus and a lot of other stuff. So HBO Max and anyway, it's absurd, I know. But if I had to switch, I would probably pick YouTube TV. Marcus Wilson, morning, Matt. Can't wait to see you and T-Bob after the games. You guys are brutally honest. Cool. Appreciate that, Marcus. Yeah, man, whiskey and wine. We will be at Don Juan after the Florida State game. I know that's Sunday, but again, the Monday is Labor Day, so everyone should be off of work, I would assume. So if y'all want to come join us after LSU Florida State, we will be at Don Juan Cigar Bar in Town Center. Really looking forward to it. Samuel Smith, same question in the NFL. Who's the better year, Saints or Cowboys? I think the Cowboys probably should be favored in their division. I know the Eagles probably are. I am not a believer in the Eagles. Boy, a lot of turnover on the offensive line for Dallas. You got an aging Zeke. You ship out Amari Cooper. That's a tough one, man. I picked the Saints 10-7 on the season. I'll say the Saints have a better regular season than Dallas. Tim Gotro, Joey B19 looks like Brady is going to come back and play after all. Joey B, to be very clear, I think we always expected Tom Brady to come back and play. It's just, isn't it odd when your starting quarterback, especially with so many new pieces and a new head coach, leaves in the middle of camp for 10 days? I mean, not taking veteran days off, just, I'm out. I get it. It's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. But that's more the point. And when I was going off last week, it's how in the world does Tom Brady just go MIA for 10 days and nobody seems to care? Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. All right, let's see. Stephen Fry, Vernell Thomas, morning, Scone. Would you take a flyer on Kenyon Drake? Sure. I think I would love to see the Saints add a running back. Ray Wright, curious to see how better prepared we are for this game than we were last season against UCLA. Oh boy. I think it is safe to say that LSU will not be victimized by the exact same running plays and formations and throws at the tight end that it was over and over again against UCLA. I do think LSU will have a coaching advantage over Florida State. I think they will have a crowd advantage, and I think they have a talent advantage. What is going to be interesting is can they block Florida State's defensive front? But I would flip it and say the same is true for Florida State. As much injury and turnover as they have had on the offensive line, can they block LSU's defensive front? By the way, some of y'all asked about the center position. So I went and actually on AFR yesterday, and I also did it on LSU Daily. If you want to check out the LSU Daily podcast, I went into a lot of detail about Florida State's center situation. So the long story short is they have a returning starter at center. They also brought in a transfer from Wisconsin, guy who played a lot of games. Played in 34 games with 16 starts. Well, the transfer from Wisconsin, torn ACL, he's out for the year. So essentially it's a net zero. You brought him in, he never played for you before, and so he's not there. The incumbent, his name is Maurice Smith. He's been banged up, so he's not going to play this weekend against Duquesne. So their starting left tackle is going to play center this week. Guys started a ton for them. Redshirt sophomore, so third-year guys, played a ton of football. He's going to start at center this week, but my guess is they're just holding out their starting center because they don't need him to beat Duquesne. So, and just to have him ready for LSU. So my guess is their line will look whole when LSU plays them. Ryan Amanda Guidry missed the Will Wade interview. How did that go? Yeah, you didn't miss it, actually. We recorded it yesterday, but it dropped today on Rosters to Riches. So, again, if you want to hear it, our NIL podcast that I do with Jonathan Pixley from Match Point, it is live right now at Drop Biscuit Studios, or however you get your podcast, search Rosters to Riches. Okay, 7:51, couple of more minutes here, y'all. Smash that like button if you haven't done so yet. Facebook, please like the page, share the post, like the page, share the post, like the page, share the post. Let me do this as well.
When you need a roof, call someone you know. Scone and Terry. All you need is Hudco. Call Hudco Roofing. 364-1007.
Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. I'm going to go quickly here. Brian Arsenault, Thomas Spencer, good morning. Love your shows. You have the most professional presentation of any of the LSU podcasts I've seen. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate that very much. Thank you for listening along, following along. Appreciate you so much. Chuck Sanchez, what's up, Chuck? Get it? Up, Chuck? Greg Phillips, what's up? Michael Thacker, morning, Scone. Came into fall with 6-7 win expectations for Brian Kelly's year. Listening talk about improvements. Am I crazy to raise expectations to 8-9? I think that's pretty natural as you get through camp. The closer you get to the season, the more and more excited you get. The new guy is going to be awesome. The old guys have grown up a ton. The other teams stink. I mean, that's just a natural progression as you go through camp and get closer to the season and excitement builds. I've been pretty consistent thinking they're 8. Again, I think the way I've said it all summer, I think the ceiling isn't as high as LSU fans might think, but I think the floor isn't as low as a lot of pundits think. Brian Arsenault, with your West better than East comment, which is true, have you heard anything on how the SEC will divide the conference once Texas and Oklahoma come in? I mean, it really depends, Brian. Well, first of all, there's not going to be an East-West. They're going to scrap divisions. The real question is, what format are they going to go to? Are they going to go to a 9-game schedule? So if they do that, then you're probably going to have the 1-3, permanent. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, my brain is turned off right now. Where you have your 3 permanents, and I'm sorry, I'm so not prepared for this. My brain is mush right now. It would basically be in a 9-game schedule where you would rotate half the league home and away. So they're proposing either a 1-7, which would be the 1 permanent, and then you rotate 7. That's if you're at 8 game. 3-6. Oh my God, why was my brain not working? A 3-6 model where you'd have 3 permanents and the other 6 would rotate home and away. Oh my God, why did my brain not work for a second? I'm very sorry. So you'd have your 3 permanents and then the other 6 would rotate. You'd play the 6 at home one year and then play the 6 on the road the next year. And so in a 4-year span, you would play every team in the league home and away. Apologies. My brain went mush for a minute. Kenneth Kyle saw Helmer's on the fall roster, thought he had retired. Nope, he decided to come back. Brant Roban, what's the spread for the Florida State game? Bet LSU on the over. It's LSU 3, and I'm probably not going to bet it at all. Craig Dugas, but you also watch less and less random stuff. Oh, you're talking about cutting the cord. Logan, scrimmage today or tomorrow. Today, media. It's this afternoon. 4:25 is the media availability for the full practice in Tiger Stadium. Is Bryce Young on his last year yet? I mean, Bryce Young is going pro after this year for sure. He might be the first pick in the draft. Jeff McKithen, Mark Vitanovich, good morning. Who's going to be the starting quarterback? I've said all along, I think it'll be Jaden Daniels. Daniel Sinets, good morning. Mark, will you be at the Superdome for Saints Chargers? I will not. Caitlin Langlanay, are you a believer in Andy Dalton? As a backup, absolutely. I don't think Andy Dalton will ever leave a team to a Super Bowl, but would I like Andy Dalton as a backup quarterback? Yes, I think he's the best backup quarterback in the NFL. All right, I think we're about done. Travis Broussard, saw your interview on Crane and Company. I don't understand why people can't understand Brennan doesn't want to sit the bench for 6 years. Not only that, Travis, he's the third quarterback. It's different if you're the backup and you're a turned ankle away. When you're number 3, you're buried on the depth chart. Like, there's virtually no chance of you playing. So I don't blame him. Samuel Smith, I know it's preseason, but Mariota's looked pretty good last night. Yeah, I've seen enough of Marcus Mariota in the regular season to know he's not a good NFL quarterback. The Falcons are going to stink. Matt Lusto, how weird would it be if this whole Brady ordeal was a grandiose attempt to spite Adam Schefter for breaking the news? Bucks be damned. I absolutely think that's why he delayed the announcement. So Schefter broke it, and then Brady waited several days before he went public with it for that reason exactly. But I think Brady does want to play. Cliff Nelson, good morning. Damon Gilmore, Rapping Batches, Ronnie Duga. All right, yo, we are done. As always, shout out to Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. Of course, brortho.com if you need an orthopedist. They are simply the best. Simply the best. brortho.com, brortho.com. And of course, Hudco Roofing, hudcoroofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Hudco's pinned in the comments, so we would love to give you a free, no obligation roofing inspection. Just click the link, fill out the form on the homepage, and we'll be in touch with you. Lickety split. All right, LSU Daily is already live. Rosters to Riches, our NIL podcast. Special guest this week, Will Wade. That is live as well. However you get your podcast. AFR at 3. We'll see you. Peace.